Jan Blob?
I agree with you, Jem. I thought that was my favourite part of the film, the bit when he's in solitary confinement. I, I liked it all the way up until they had landed on the island, and that bit, as you said, Liam, when they just they got met by the officials on the Honduras coast, and then he just scarpered and left the rest of his mates. That I was actually for a time feeling like there was a real sense of camaraderie between them, and just left them for dead without absolutely no second thought about them at all. I'll just follow some random bloke off into the woods.
Yeah.
And I think for me the thing which I probably feel was the maybe the weakest part of the film is that and to your point, Guy, I hadn't felt zero chemistry really between him and Dustin Hoffman. Didn't get much from them at all. I thought that the overarching theme and probably the big success of the film for me was this idea that he was becoming almost obsessive in his pursuit for freedom. Like this the whole idea, and this is to quote Batman the animated series here, is that you redouble your efforts whilst losing sight of your goal. Like that whole theme played out for me, like that came across quite strong. And it was only when the nun asked him the question about, if you're a free man, what are you going to do with it? And he's like, I haven't really had time to think about it yet. I like that bit because that was like, I think the first time that he as a character started to realise that actually I don't really know why I'm so like hell-bent on this. Because actually for the first part of the film, one of my gripes was a little bit like, why aren't they playing into the fact that, he feels he's, not guilty? Like, why aren't they showing that that's the driving force behind him wanting to get out? And I think it's generally because his character didn't really know why he wanted to get out. He just knew he wanted to get out. So I thought that was probably dealt with, the best out of the different like overarching narratives. But yeah, for me, I thought it was a good film. I don't want to rush back and watch it again, but that's because I didn't really buy the relationships between the characters very much.
It's a hard watch as well, isn't it? It's a hard one to watch because some prison films, albeit accidentally, they sort of almost glamorize what it can be like inside, and the camaraderie between inmates. I mean, you look at what prison films are there. I mean, Shawshank, stuff like that. Him and Morgan Freeman, they're all best mates and stuff like that. And this really shows that prison is this kind of prison was horrible, and you do not want to be stuck on these islands or whatever. And if you do the wider reading, I mean, the treatment that these prisoners got. Admittedly, a lot of them were sort of political prisoners or rapists and murderers and all that, but like the treatment was just obscene. And this really shows how that, like you said, Jem, with how they're treated in solitary confinement, and it really I think it nailed all of that, and you really just it wasn't glamorized at all, and that can make it a lot more of a tiring watch, I guess, like you say, Liam. But I think there was enough in there to keep it moving the whole time, and I think the acting was good enough to keep carrying it through, for sure.
I think historical films from this period, I personally, a lot of my favourite films are from this kind of period. If you're looking at like Long Good Friday, if you're looking at Zulu, if you're looking at kind of Great Escape, even going back to war films, Where Eagles Dare, a lot of these films are, they're slightly more simplistic on an emotional level, an emotional interaction level, I find, but they're carried by I guess storyline and the fact that they're kind of no frills in the sense that everything is on set, everything is kind of real, everything's hair and makeup, everything's costume, everything, and it kind of relies on the kind of acting and the storyline to put it through. See, I found that the second half, I think the film could have been longer in my opinion. I don't normally find that. I normally get tired with 3-hour films, 3.5-hour films. But I felt like the storyline had enough flesh in it that it could have been made a lot longer. And I think the reason potentially that it skips over a lot of these kind of emotional nuances that it could have been put in, like you mentioned, leaving his friend on the beach, Degar on the beach. I think that's purely just running time. that they.
Do you think it would have been better if it's longer? Is that because I think agree any film could be longer, but do you think it would have been better if it was longer?
Yeah, and also just yeah, I do because I didn't find that I got tired with it at any point. I found it quite enjoyable the whole way through. But also knowing, having done the reading around it, when he sails off from that island, he actually gets captured again in Venezuela and then goes through another like 5-year cycle. So there was so much more in the storyline that could have been eked out. But even that, I don't think it needed to tell that bit of the tale. But I think it's actually Colombia. He doesn't land in Honduras, but I thought they could have made more of that element as well, and him running away from the authorities.
I could tell it was being chopped up a little bit towards the end, and maybe it was because it was self-aware of its own lengthy runtime. Like as soon as he lands on the beach, it just feels like they're kind of running towards the finish line a little bit, which is why that Honduras stuff feels a little rushed. And even like, I almost found there was the slightest amount of humor for me when he gets picked up, sent back to jail again, and literally the next scene is just him leaving. I was like, there was something slightly and probably not intendedly amusing about that for me, where I was like, oh well, he's just literally gone all the way back and experienced what was for us like an hour earlier on in the film, like all over again, plus another 2 years, and now he's got like grey hair and all of this sort of stuff. So I know what you mean. I feel like if it took the time to flesh out that last third, it probably would have landed. It might have landed those ideas that it was playing with a little more effectively. The idea of the theme of escaping and not knowing why and these sorts of things.
The best bits of the film were when the characters were going through these deep emotional struggles, and that's because they're both cracking actors. And so, and the scenes when they were in prison, especially that solitary confinement scene, just highlighted that, and it gave them the opportunity to really convey these theories. But in the latter half of the film, they're running around a lot more, and there's a lot more events compared to the first half of the film, and far less dialogue, far less reflection, and that's why you lose you lose a bit of emotional connection that you perhaps get in the first half of the film. Well, that's what I.
What do you think? It's obviously all the actors and language used is English with American accents. Obviously, it's French initially. Did any of that annoy you at all? That it was Steve McQueen, Dustin Hoffman using being American, and then also, so the second question to that is: do you think if there was a French version of the film, it would be more powerful with French actors being more authentic?
Probably,
Yeah.
It made me laugh, the whole, like, this is some French dude and he's just played with, it's like completely unapologetically like the fattest American accent.
It's just Steve McQueen. It's just, if you've seen Bullet or anything like that, it's Steve McQueen. Until he gets locked away, he's just...
You can imagine him saying, yeah, that's my French accent.
Yeah.
Like, take it or leave it, like... Yeah.
I haven't looked into it. Do any of you have any thoughts on why that might have been? Do you reckon it could just be to sell it to an audience, or? Yeah.
Yeah, if it's big budget,
yeah.
They needed a name, didn't they?
Because I feel like it could be really powerful and really, really carry if, for example, a film had that budget and it was a French film, especially now. Like foreign films so appreciated now. It could, if there was a film that was done of Papillon, French, still saying that time, or exactly the same, but French actors, French language, I think it could be really, really powerful bit of cinema. Because it was remade in 2017, wasn't it?
I was going
with Charlie Hunnam and Rami Malek.
I'm assuming no one's seen that one.
Right, which I'm glad. I'm so glad, I'm glad we've seen this one before we've seen that new one.
Is it meant to be any good?
As far as I've heard, it's not bad, but it's not. It's as a remake goes, it's not bad. But I was never willing to watch it before having seen this one. I think that's only right. But from what I've heard, it's not bad. It could appeal to different generations as well, because obviously Steve McQueen was actually sort of an earlier actor than Dustin Hoffman. So this is almost two different generations of actors working together on screen here. But as a whole, the 1973 version. I spoke to my parents about it over the weekend, and obviously they'd seen it, but it was totally different. Whereas a film that was released in 2017 will appeal to a different audience, perhaps. I've not seen it obviously, so I can't pass judgment or comment. But obviously, I would assume the CGI and all of that is totally different. The blood would not be so red, and things like that. Little, small things like that, but they're little things that make watching films from the 70s and 60s all the better, in my opinion.
Well, I like people wrestling what looked to be an actual crocodile, like a stuntman.
Yeah, did you? Would that look like it was actually a crocodile?
Yeah.
So it probably was. That was Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman there playing around with a bloody crocodile. I thought that was quite.
The only reason I thought it was definitely real was because of the way it looks so unscripted. It was like two blokes not knowing where they were meant to be standing in this puddle, like and that was perfect for the scene. But I just don't think that was scripted in any way. They're like stumbling around and like.
Yeah, no, I did. He was like, I'll go get the tail now, and I'll go around the other end. And it did look so. It was comical, really. There were some comical bits in there as well. Maybe not enough comical bits, but I suppose you don't want it to detract from the subject matter at hand.
There was a bit of dark comedy. They sit down to have lunch, and they go, "Oh, what's up with your partner? Oh, he's dead. Yeah, here's his rations."